Hello and welcome to StudyIQ. In this lecture, we will discuss about mega bank merger. Why bank mergers has become another important current affair recently? Because the government is again planning to merge 4 important public sector banks after the SBI merger. So again the government is planning for a mega bank merger, and that is why bank merger has become an important current affair for us. Now let us see what is a bank merger. So, bank merger, in definition, it is defined as a situation in which 2 or more banks pool their assets and liabilities to become one bank. So, it is a situation in which 2 or more banks pool their assets and also liabilities. Not only assets but also liabilities. Liabilities can be in the form of bad debts, bad loans, NPAs, etc. So, assets and liabilities to become a single bank or one bank. Let us see why government is planning for another mega merger. First of all, the SBI merger was successful. On April 1st, 2017, the government announced for a SBI merger. That is, SBI will merge with its 5 associate banks, and that merger was successful and it showed results, and that is one reason the government is planning for another mega merger. Secondly, the government wants to create 3-4 global banks. So, the plan of the government is to create 3, 4 or 5 global lenders, or which are competent at the international level with huge capital. So, when it comes to bank merger, what happens? We said that 3 or 4 banks or 2 or more banks will pool their assets and also liabilities. So, in case of assets, when bank merging happens, the assets of the banks will increase and they will become internationally competent or global sized banks. So, the government is planning to create 3-4 global sized lenders in the economy. So, we already said about the SBI merger. So, after the SBI merger, what has happened? SBI has turned into one of the topmost 50 banks in the world. So, it became one of the topmost 50 banks in the world. And if the plan of the second merger, that is the second mega merger, works out well, the government is planning to create the second largest bank in India after the merger. So, which are the 4 banks that the government is planning to merge? First one is the Bank of Baroda. Second one is IDBI. Third one Oriental Bank. And fourth one Central Bank. So, these 4 banks are facing merger right now, or the government is planning to merge this 4 banks. So, according to some reports, the government says that if these 4 banks are merged, this will create 16.58 trillion rupees assets. So, the assets altogether of these 4 banks will be 16.58 trillion, and this will make these merger or the merging bank the second largest bank after the SBI. So, SBI is the largest bank in India right now, and if 4 of these banks are merged, this will become the second largest in the country. So, what is the prime reason for this merger? The prime reason, if we trace the prime reason is to address the toxic loan issue. So, there is an issue with bad loans. So, if we look at the past 3 years with regard to these 4 banks, that is Bank of Baroda, IDBI, Oriental Bank and Central Bank. So, if we look at the 4 banks, in the past 3 years, we will observe that the bad loans in the banks have increased. So, bad loans in the banks have increased, and not only there is a bad loan increase, but also there is a decrease in the demand for fresh loans. So, what is the primary function of a bank? The primary function of a bank is to lend to the general public. So, the bank has the responsibility of collecting savings. So, there is savings with the bank, or the general public put their savings in the bank, and the bank in turn lends to the general public. So, lending and also accepting deposits. These two are the main functions of a bank. So, what has happened in the recent past? The lending has come down. So, when the lending of the bank comes down, it means the profit of the bank comes down. So, here with regard to 4 of these banks, we will see that the bad loans have increased, which means repayment of loans is less. And also demand for fresh loans came down, which means the lending business of the banks have come down. So, when the lending decreases, the profitability of the bank also comes down. the general public will lose confidence with the banks, and this is the prime reason the government is planning to merge 4 of these banks. So, with an increase in the bad loans, what will happen? The share of bad loans as a percentage to total loans will increase. So, out of the total loans, if we take total loans as 100, the share of bad loans will increase, and that is a very bad indicator regarding the performance of banks. And one more thing you should remember here is these 4 banks, out of these 4 banks, 3 banks except the Bank of Baroda, all these 3 banks, that is IDBI Bank, Oriental Bank and also the Central Bank, these 3 banks are already under the PCA or the prompt corrective action of the RBI. So already these 3 banks, IDBI, Oriental Bank and Central Bank, they are under the prompt corrective action of the RBI, and that itself is an indicator that the performance of banks are going down. And in order to avoid further underperformance, the government is planning to merge these 4 banks. And if we look at the statistics, the quantum of bad loans, that is corporate borrowers not repaying, this will be almost equal to 10 lakh crore. That is the total bad loans in the economy according to certain statistics. And out of this 10 lakh crore, around 8.9 lakh crore are from the government owned banks or from the public sector banks. So these are from public sector banks, and this data itself shows how underperformed are the public sector banks. So this is one reason the government is planning to merge these 4 banks. So one reason is increasing bad loans. Second one, the government wants to create 4 or 5 internationally competent or global sized banks. And thirdly, the SBI merger has proved successful. And fourth reason, in order to improve the performance of these banks. So these are the reasons government is planning to make another mega merger of these 4 banks. So these are the reasons in particular regarding this merger. But in general, what are the benefits of merger of banks? First of all, there will be an increase in the scale, which means there will be more capital, more number of customers, better geographical footprint, etc. So the scale will increase. Secondly, the efficiency of the bank will increase. The efficiency regarding infrastructure, risk management or management of banks. So all this will increase. Again, this will help to fill the business gaps. So business gaps can be in the form of capital or technology. So these gaps also can be filled with mergers. Also, it will promote talent and team upgrade. So talent or team, human resources will also increase when there is a merger of banks. So these are the reasons in general why bank mergers are important. So in the context of bank mergers, there is an important committee which we should not forget, that is Narasimham Committee 2. The Narasimham Committee 2 was established in the year 1998 and the committee's name was Committee on Banking Sector Reforms. So when we say Narasimham Committee 2, you should remember there was another committee that was headed by the same person, Mr. M. Narasimham. So that committee was in the year 1991 and the committee was named as Committee on Financial Systems. So this was in the year 1991 and this committee is popularly known as the Narasimham Committee 1 or Narasimham Committee. So this is also an important committee which we will discuss in our banking module. But here in the context of our topic, that is bank merger, Narasimham Committee 2 is important, and that committee was known as Banking Sector Reforms Committee, which was headed by Mr. M. Narasimham, and that is why this committee is popularly known as Narasimham Committee 2. So let us quickly see what were the recommendations of the second Narasimham Committee, that is the Committee on Banking Sector Reforms. As we said, it was in the year 1998 and headed by Mr. M. Narasimham, who is the former Governor of the Reserve Bank of India. And in this committee, the chairman or the committee had came up with 4 important recommendations, and during that time, that is the year 1998, these 4 recommendations did not seem very important for the government, and out of these 4 recommendations, only one recommendation was accepted by the government that time. But now in this context, all the 4 recommendations seems to be very important, and let us quickly see what were the recommendations. The first recommendation of this committee was that the banks should be organized in a 4-tiered structure. So 4-tiered structure must be formed for the banks, and according to the recommendation, there should be 4 tiers. On the first tier, there should be 4 or 5 strong banks which are competent at the international level. Or the committee recommended that in the tier 1, the government should create 4 or 5 banks in the economy which are competent at the global level, which we have discussed right now. The government is planning through this merger to create 4 or 5 globally competent or global sized lenders. And this recommendation was given way back in 1998 by the Narasimham committee, and during that time this was not accepted by the government. That may be because of the structure of the Indian economy during that time, but now the economy has progressed and now the economy is able to adopt to this recommendation. That is why now we are considering this recommendation. And in the second tier, he recommended that there should be some banks that is competent at the national level. In the third tier, the banks should be competent at the regional level, and in the fourth tier at the rural level. So overall, there should be a 4-tiered structure for the banks in the economy, wherein which the first tier should comprise of 4 or 5 banks which can become global players. And now the government through the mergers is planning to create such 4 or 5 banks, and SBI, we have already seen, it has become one of the topmost 50 banks in the world and already entered into the category of global lender. The second recommendation of the Narasimham committee was with regard to merger of banks. The committee recommended that strong banks should be merged with strong banks, not with weak banks. So this recommendation was also not accepted by the government during that time. But now if we see, the government is actually merging strong banks with the strong banks. We have already seen the SBI example where SBI was merged with 5 associate banks. SBI itself is a strong bank and associate banks are also strong banks. So already we have seen strong bank merger, and again now we have seen the government is again planning to merge 4 public sector banks, which is again a such type of merger. So this was also one recommendation of Narasimham Committee 2. And the third recommendation of Narasimham Committee 2 was that the government should reduce the shareholdings in public sector banks to 33%. So this was the third recommendation. This was not accepted by the government during that time. Again, the fourth recommendation was that capital adequacy ratio of the banks should be increased from 8 to 9%, and in fact this was the only recommendation accepted by the government during that time. So these are the 4 important recommendations of Narasimham Committee 2, and in the context of bank merger, the first 2 recommendations 1 and 2 is very important for us. So you should remember the committee and the recommendations of the committee. If you can quote the name of the committee in your answers anywhere, this would be great.